Rentier capitalism is a Marxist term currently used to describe the belief in economic practices of monopolization of access to any kind of property, and gaining significant amounts of profit without contribution to society. The origins of the term are unclear. It is often said to be used in Marxism. Yet, the very combination of words rentier and capitalism was never used by Karl Marx himself. Usage by Marxists. In his early works, Karl Marx juxtaposed the terms rentier and capitalist to show that a rentier tends to exhaust his profits, whereas a capitalist must perforce reinvest most of the surplus value in order to survive competition. He wrote, therefore, the means of the extravagant rentier diminish daily in inverse proportion to the growing possibilities and temptations of pleasure. He must therefore either consume his capital himself, and in so doing bring about his own ruin, or become an industrial capitalist. However, Marx believed that capitalism was inherently built upon practices of usury and thus inevitably leading to the separation of society into two classes. One composed of those who produce value and the other, which feeds upon the first one. In Theories of Surplus Value, he states that interest and rent are superfetations which are not essential to capitalist production and of which it can rid itself. If this bourgeois ideal were actually realizable, the only result would be that the whole of the surplus value would go to the industrial capitalist directly, and society would be reduced to the simple contradiction between capital and wage labor, a simplification which would indeed accelerate the dissolution of this mode of production, hence the extraordinary growth of a class, or rather, of a stratum of rentiers, i.e., people who live by clipping coupons, in the sense of collecting interest payments on bonds, who take no part in any enterprise whatever, whose profession is idleness. The export of capital, one of the most essential economic bases of imperialism, still more completely isolates the rentiers from production and sets the seal of parasitism on the whole country that lives by exploiting the labour of several overseas countries and colonies. It therefore becomes clear that the term rentier capitalism could not be coined by Marxists simply because of redundancy of the words composing it. Marxist thought perceives capitalism as inherently rentier, or usury-based, which would lead eventually to its demise precisely because of this inner deficiency in its organization. Current usage, probably because presently capitalism is perceived in a positive light. Current usage of the term rentier capitalism is often derogatory and opposed to normal capitalism such as free enterprise and private enterprise. It is used to describe deviation from the beneficial practices of capitalists, and only when substantial harm to society becomes evident. Conversely, the term rentier state is mainly used not in its original meaning, as an imperialistic state thriving on labor of other countries and colonies, but as a state which derives all or a substantial portion of its national revenues from the rent of indigenous resources to external clients. Bibliography. Robert Pollan, Resurrection of the Rentier, in New Letter Review 46, July-August 2007, pp. 140–153. Michael Hudson, Financial Capitalism v. Industrial Capitalism. Contribution to the Other Canon Conference on Production Capitalism vs. Financial Capitalism, Oslo, September 3–4, 1998. Karl Marx, The Economic and Philosophical Manuscripts, Institute of Marxism-Leninism in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, 1932. Karl Marx, Theories of Surplus Value, Progress Publishers, 1863. Vladimir Lenin, Imperialism, The Highest Stage of Capitalism, Lenin's Selected Works, Progress Publishers, 1963. Moscow, Volume 1, pp. 667–766. Ahmed Henny, Le Capitalisme de rente, de la Société du Travail Industriel à la Société des Rentiers. Paris, Harmattan, 2012.